All right, let's get started. Look, as leaders in tech and strategy, we're all staring down the same barrel, right? We're stuck with this first-gen automation, these brittle bots that are just holding us back. So today, we're going to tear that down and lay out a real blueprint for what's next. Automation that's actually intelligent, resilient, and ready for the enterprise. Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we'll talk about automation's glass ceiling, where we're hitting a wall. Then we'll get into the new agentic paradigm. This is the fun stuff. We'll go deep inside the architecture of something I call Invoice Bot. After that, we've got to talk about making it enterprise ready. Fortification is key. Then we'll do a head-to-head, agentic versus traditional. And finally, I'll leave you with a concrete roadmap to get you started. All right, let's jump right in. The problem we're facing, the real hidden cost, isn't just about people doing manual work. It's that our current rule-based systems, they're just so fragile. So, let's kick things off with a number that, well, it should keep every single one of us up at night, 88%. That's the percentage of spreadsheets out there with significant errors. Think about that in the context of financial forecasting. That's not a risk. That's a ticking time bomb, a huge liability just waiting to go off. And look, this brittleness, it's not just in spreadsheets. It's the core problem with our first wave of automation. I'm talking about traditional RPA. Yeah, they're fine for super simple, repetitive stuff. But they're so rigid, They're basically screen scraping. So the second your dev team pushes a UI update and a button moves 2 pixels to the left, snap, the whole thing breaks. And then what happens? Your maintenance costs go through the roof. So that's the problem. How do we shatter that glass ceiling? The answer isn't a better bot. It's a total paradigm shift. We have to stop thinking about automating simple tasks and start thinking about achieving complex goals. This is the leap to what we call agentic process automation, or APA. And look, this didn't happen overnight. It's been an evolution. We all started with RPA, right? Just teaching bots to mimic human clicks. Simple. Then we got a little smarter with IPA, adding some AI to read things like PDFs and emails. But now we're at the main event. We're at APA. We're talking about deploying autonomous agents that can actually reason, plan, and adapt to hit a business goal all on their own. And this chart, this really lays it all out. Forget everything else for a second and just look at 2 rows. First, adaptability. With RPA, it's static. A UI change kills it. With APA, it's dynamic. It can actually learn and adapt. Now look at decision-making. RPA is just if this, then that. APA? We're talking about independent, goal-oriented reasoning. It's not even in the same league. It's a whole different ballgame. Okay, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty and look at a real-world architecture. I want to deconstruct a hybrid APA/RPS solution we've built called Invoice Bot. We're going to see how all these ideas come to life in one of the most painful but critical finance processes, invoice processing. So the workflow for Invoice Bot is what we call stateful. That's a keyword. It means the system always knows exactly where it is in the process. First, it fetches an invoice right from an email attachment. Next, it uses multimodal AI. That means it's looking at the text and the layout to extract and classify the data. Then, and this is the magic, it validates that data against our live ERP system. Is the vendor real? Is the PO number correct? After that, it creates the structured journal entry. And finally, the most important step for any enterprise system. Anything it's not 100% sure about gets flagged for a human to review in a simple dashboard. It's a complete loop with a built-in safety net. So what's the secret sauce holding this all together? It's a framework called LangGraph. The best way to think about it is like an orchestra conductor. It tells each part of the system what to do and when. Technically, it models the entire workflow as a state machine. But forget the jargon, it's like this. At any given moment, LangGraph knows the exact state of the process. Why is that a huge deal? Because it means the agent's behavior is totally predictable. It's not a black box. We can trace every single decision it made, which, for debugging and especially for auditors, is an absolute game changer. All right, let's talk about the brain behind the agent. And the beauty of this architecture is that you get to choose. You can go with what we call Invoice Bot, which plugs into a top-tier API like GPT, Claude, or Gemini for maximum power and reasoning. Or, and this is huge for regulated industries, you can go with Invoice Bot Free. This uses a powerful local model like Google's Gemma 4, running entirely on your own servers, completely air-gapped. That means 0 sensitive financial data ever leaves your internet. So this agent isn't just a brain. It's got a whole toolkit to handle the messy real world. To beat those awful OCR errors from bad scans, it uses a hybrid extraction method. It reads the text, but also looks at the document layout. It has tools to make direct, secure calls to our databases to check things like vendor IDs and PO numbers. It can enforce our specific business rules, like making sure net plus tax actually equals the total. And my favorite part? LangGraph creates these durable checkpoints, so if a process takes hours and something goes down, it can pick up right where it left off. No data loss. Look, a cool architecture is just a science project if it's not secure, scalable, and observable. For us, those things are non-negotiable table stakes. So now let's talk about how we fortify this thing and make it truly enterprise-ready. This right here, this is the million-dollar question. How do you debug a black box? More importantly, when an auditor is sitting across the table from you, how do you prove to them why an agent made a specific financial decision? The answer is observability. Total transparency. We integrate an open source platform called Arise Phoenix. It hooks right into LangGraph using open telemetry, which is just a standard way for systems to talk about what they're doing. What this gives us is a full execution trace. Every LLM call, every database query, every little state change is logged. And because it runs 100% locally, we get this perfect auditable timeline of the agent's entire thought process without a single byte of data leaving our network. And security is a defense-in-depth strategy, right? It's not one thing. First, we have the option for 100% offline execution. That's our biggest wall. Second, every database interaction uses parameterized queries. That shuts the door on SQL injection. Third, we harden the system against prompt injection. We can't let a funky PDF take over the agent. And finally, access control. The dashboard where humans review exceptions, that ties directly into Windows AD for proper role-based access. Check, check, check. Okay, so let's get to the verdict. Time to put this all together in a direct head-to-head comparison. How does this agentic approach really stack up against a big, traditional RPA player like UiPath? Now, this is where the rubber really meets the road. Let's talk about the day-to-day reality of maintenance. With the agentic model, a change is often as simple as tweaking a sentence in a text file, a 5-minute job. With traditional RPA, you've got a developer checking out a project, wrestling with complex proprietary workflows like XML, compiling, redeploying. We're talking days, not minutes. And scaling, it's the same story. With our agent, you just add more processing threads. With RPA, you're on the phone with sales, buying another expensive robot license. It's a fundamentally different cost and complexity model. And this is the single most important thing I want you to walk away with today. InvoiceBot Free, this agentic approach, it's not just a cheaper RPA. That completely misses the point. This is an entirely separate and frankly superior tier of cognitive software architecture. All right, the tech is compelling, the advantages are obvious. But the big question in the room is always, that's great, but how do we actually get there from here? So let's lay out a practical 5-step roadmap to make this transition happen. The key here is to not try and boil the ocean. This is an iterative, low-risk approach. Step 1. Identify. Find one process that is a total nightmare, a high-value, high-effort process that's riddled with errors. Step 2. Build a proof of concept. Don't build the whole thing, just a small-scale agent to tackle that one process. Step 3. Measure. Use those observability tools to get hard data on the improvements in speed, accuracy, and cost. Get that ROI. Step 4, and this one is so important, upskill. Train your people in finance and ops. The cool thing is, these tools are way more accessible. You can empower them. And finally, step 5, scale. Take that win and expand the agentic approach to other high-value problems. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. As leaders, the choice in front of us isn't just about automation anymore. It's a fundamental architectural decision. Are we going to keep building brittle bots that are a constant maintenance headache, or are we ready to start architecting resilient, intelligent, digital colleagues that actually make our human teams better? The choice and the opportunity is right in front of us.